One of the questions I get a lot, and it's a really good question, is what are the existing charities that legitimately support the whole experience in the plant medicine space of reciprocity? What are the groups that we can support that are doing amazing work to protect and support the plants and people like us that love them? Well, I want to talk about one of those charities groups today. And it's really personal to me because I consider these people some of my guardian angels. So I want to talk about the Ayahuasca Defense Fund, ADF. Ayahuasca Defense Fund is a division of ICEERS. And ICEERS stands for, I had to write this down because it's hard to remember. ICEERS is a nonprofit group. It stands for the International Center for Ethnobotanical Education, Research, and Service. They've been around for many, many years, and they are people that are incredibly intelligent, and they love plant medicines, and they are influencing public policy. They are holding members of the shamanic community to a level of integrity and standards. And most importantly to me, they are protecting medicine carriers who are arrested and persecuted by legal systems all over the world. Ayahuasca Defense Fund, they've been around for quite a few years now because they were a group of lawyers that were able to see the inevitable landscape that we're in now, which is that as the Western world gets more and more attached to profiting and controlling and regulating sacred medicines, shamanic practitioners like me get in more and more danger. Because what's happening now is that doctors and clinicians and therapists are starting to gain the legal right to administer medicines, which is awesome, by the way. But people who have studied traditions that are thousands and thousands of years old, no matter how many years of experience we might have, we're still considered essentially doctors without licenses. And so those people get to go to jail for a long time, even though they have legitimate lineages and expertise. David's sharing that the ADF helped his two friends avoid 8 years in prison and a million euro fine. I avoided 40 years in prison because of these beings. So the ADF, I think they've done like over 225 plus cases in dozens and dozens of countries. They're completely worldwide because this problem is worldwide. And the team consists of a few guardian angels, like really, really gifted and knowledgeable lawyers who also are connected to plant medicine. ADF is a part of ICEERS, ICEERS.org. You can go to ICEERS.org/ADF to learn more about them. But to give you some personal context of what they did for me when I needed them most, by the way, is I was arrested. Many of you know this already, but I was arrested earlier this year. A package intercepted that had that allegedly, I never saw the package, but had ayahuasca. And I found out there was a warrant for my arrest. I went to jail for a few days, got lost in the system, and emerged pretty freaked out, fired up and ready to fight for myself, but really freaked out about what was in front of me. I mean, I don't have to tell you all that the system is very draconian. Doesn't understand the difference between medicines and drugs. So I was accused of DMT. I never worked with DMT. DMT is one alkaloidal component of ayahuasca, but that's like saying we're carbon because we have that as part of our makeup. In any event, the system is super, super old and doesn't really recognize or understand these sorts of differences. So I knew I was up against that. And they had charged me with different offenses that would have equaled a maximum sentence of 40 years in prison, which is really intimidating. So I had heard about the ADF, I knew they existed, and I went to their site, and one of the really amazing things that they do is they have, I want to say like 15, 17 different points of criteria that you have to meet in order for them to support you, which is awesome because they don't exist just to support somebody who decides one day to buy ayahuasca off the internet and has no reciprocity, relationship, etc. This is really for medicine carriers, people who have followed the lineages and protocol, who are acting from integrity, who are engaged in reciprocity and protection of the plants, who are informed in harm reduction and trauma to keep the people that sit with them safe. These are people that are really trying to do everything from the space of integrity. And I read all of the points, the criteria, and honestly just cried, because I'm like, I do these things, I'm really trying my best here, and here I am in trouble. So I got connected to the ADF by a mutual contact, and literally within 45 minutes, they had responded and said, Kat, we've got your back. And so what they supplied, what they do for people who get in the position that I was in, they supply the precedents that they've gathered over the hundreds of cases that they have done. I had local legal counsel, but they had no experience in plant medicine, so they kind of didn't know where to begin with the case. The ADF supplied all of that information. Like, these are the angles of arguments that help to win cases. Here is all of the information that the legal system will want to see around, defining what ayahuasca is, what DMT is. Like, we basically had to educate every judge and the DA that I encountered in order to get them to understand that, I'm not a hardened drug lord that was out trying to harm people with DMT, which I don't even work with. And so I had all of that instantly supplied from the ADF. And I think even more important, at least to me from an emotional perspective, was I got support from a woman named Natalia Raboyo, who's the lead counsel for ADF. She became like a sister to me that allowed me to call her friend to friend and say, can you remind me that divine justice will prevail? Because it's just so, there's so much extortion and darkness in our legal system. I knew that, but it's totally different when it's focused at you. And I was facing 40 years in jail and so terrified from it. What the support of the ADF did for me is it helped me to know that I didn't have to make decisions from fear about the case that I was facing. That I had an army behind me of experienced beings that knew how to navigate this. Long story short, my ending is happy. I didn't have to take it to trial. I agreed to a plea and got 1 year probation, which I was advised by my entire legal team was a really good deal. And I feel really blessed that a year probation timeout, my naivete bubble popped and I'm safe. But I'm sharing this information about the Ayahuasca Defense Fund because they are lifesavers and guardian angels, and because arrests are going up and up and up because of what I mentioned earlier, the fact that clinicians and doctors are getting legal protection, but shamanic practitioners aren't. In addition to supporting people like myself, the ADF is also behind the scenes helping to create public policy and narrative around how to create long-term safety and protection from people that are doing this work in integrity. So they want to help create legal precedents around the world to not only protect clinicians and doctors, but also shamanic practitioners that are legitimately trained, that are experienced and safe and trustworthy. So they're doing amazing work. If you feel called to support them, they are completely by donation. And your donations help to make sure people like me don't go to jail. So I'm super grateful to the Ayahuasca Defense Fund. I'm very honored to share about the work that they do with all of you. Thank you for your support, however that shows up, however you can stand for the safety, protection of the plants and the people that are carrying them. Thank you everybody for the awesome comments. I'm happy to share this. And I'll see you in the next discussion next week. I'm going to talk about why it's not a good idea to do ayahuasca alone. But for now, I wish you all super happy holidays. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Big love.